I think we will call our committee meeting to order. Today's date is September 27th. The time is 5 o'clock. And I'd like to thank staff and those who are here with us today to join us. Thank Director Saeed. We are missing Director Connor. She may or may not be along, so I will just run the meeting until she does arrive. Starting with policies with changes, we have 103, complaints, students, employees, parents, other persons, with Dr. Battle.
Yes, thank you, Directors Alt and Saeed. So policy 103 is coming back to the committee. It was reviewed on August 23rd. We're returning to the committee to get some more information about the language that had strike-throughs when it was presented. The model policy 103 going back about 15 years, and those two provisions were not found. But this, in fact, does not mean we cannot add it as a district. The prohibition of retaliation and processes regarding complaints are set out in policies 413, harassment and violence, 415, mandated reporting of maltreatment of vulnerable adults, 514, bullying, 522, Title IX, sex discrimination, and 526, hazing. And other model policies may have similar provisions. So if you look at 103, the sections with that were struck were 2, D, and E. Before a complaint against an employee is acted upon, the employee will have the opportunity to respond to the complaint with the appropriate administrator to present information relevant to the complaint. And E, no reprisals against the complainant or witness will be tolerated. So the question before the committee is to restore those two or to add a cross-reference of those 5 policies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, 5 policies to the cross-reference.
Thank you. Director Saeed, what are your thoughts?
Well, I wasn't here last time, so I don't know what the discussion entailed at that time. But is it added on the cross-reference right now? Or is it something that we're asking to be added on
So
there?
I'm not seeing the cross-references added, and appreciate the fact that they're being mentioned. I think the conversation was making sure that we have in the complaints policy adequate transparency for families to be able to know what they need to do, as opposed to having things parsed out across various policies.
Okay.
So 2 of the 5 are already in here, cross-reference. So the
right.
413, the 514 are already in there. So it would be 3 addition to cover, stricken in D and E.
Or simply keep the language.
I think keeping the language is more appropriate to me. So it just kind of gives a little bit more detail into what is needed in order for any of that to happen, rather than just relying on that cross-reference. But
Okay.
I'm willing to go with whatever you have in mind, Abigail.
I tend to agree with you, Sue. Do we want to add the additional cross-references as well? Or do we think the language will be adequate?
I think the language would be adequate for now because, again, it goes into a lot more detail than I thought it would. So I think that would be sufficient.
Okay. So we'll keep the language that was stricken.
Okay.
All right. And that will make it looks like it's actually going to be consent. Yeah, we'll make 103 consent. All right, and next we have policy 401, equal employment opportunity. with Stacy Sovine. Welcome, Stacy.
Hi. All right. Well, tonight I'm bringing to you 4 policies, starting off with 401. All of them have very minor changes that MSBA is recommending. The majority of it just has updates as to when things were revised, updated statutes, the language to align with statute. Probably the biggest thing you'll see through the next 4 is the removal of the Executive Director of Human Resources and changing that to Superintendent or Designee. It just seems more appropriate to, at this point in time, to have it a little bit broader as far as the role. So for 401, that really is the biggest change that's being added. The others are just, like I said, minor updates to the policy.
Okay. Dr. Said, comments?
I'm just curious what brought up that section for them to go with the superintendent rather than the director of HR? Just what was,
Well, because the position is changing to the Executive Director of Administrative Services.
okay, gotcha,
So I don't have a Director of HR at the moment.
gotcha. No comments.
Okay.
Thank you, Stacy.
Awesome.
Okay.
So we will keep 402.
402, same thing. MSBA is updating the revised date, changing some language around the legal references, updating the chapters that are current. The other piece that we're doing here is handing off the contact over to Haley Busker, who is the HR coordinator, and her contact information for this. And then the language, again, also in the back, just the non-discriminating on the basis of handicap. They're just updating and providing the title for those statutes.
Awesome.
All good.
Okay. So that will be a consent item.
Fantastic.
2 for 2, Stacy.
Don't get used to it, okay?
Let's keep a good thing going here. Okay, 403, also MSBA updating the revised date. The procedures for administering the policy, again, moving to the employee, to superintendent or designee. Crossing out the last section because as I reread that on paragraph 1 under 5A, if the employee supervisor is the Executive Director of Human Resources, the supervisor will consult with the superintendent. That was kind of language, I'm not exactly sure, but it was kind of a bridge to nowhere because my supervisor has always been the superintendent, so I'm not sure who this is referring to. But in a number of our negotiated contracts, what is going on is principals do not provide disciplinary action in isolation without consulting first with me. And quite frankly, my role has always provided all of the letters so that we're aligned, we're uniform, we're using the same type of application for events across the district. Because one of the concerns for different bargaining units was, well, this principal is going to hold me to task a lot differently than another principal. Well, the assurance is, no, everybody is kind of coming through one area so that we're applying discipline equally across the district.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep. Again, changing the Executive Director of Human Resources to Superintendent or Designee, and then just, again, updating statute language as such.
Great.
Everything looks good for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to suggest, I like that, I appreciated that explanation. And I'm sorry, Stacy, but I'm thinking the board members might actually appreciate having that same explanation. Do we want it on first reading or consent?
To what he said in regarding just that,
If it's first reading, then they'll get the benefit of that explanation.
sure.
402.
If we do a first reading on that, it'll need to be the second meeting in October. I won't be here at the first one.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay?
Perfectly fine.
Okay? Well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
403.
Sorry,
first
Stacy, you were so close.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. 408, subpoena of school district employees, again, revised date by MSBA, and again, just updating and clarifying the language, spelling it out instead of USC United States Code. And superintendent or designee instead of the HR director, pretty much the same, just making it current according to statute.
You still starting up? Are you still starting up? It is now. Okay. Okay, keep going. Okay.
I'm good with this one,
Good?
yes.
Okay, me too. So consent,
Yeah.
sound good? Okay,
408,
so we will go with
okay.
consent on that one.
408, subpoena of a school district. Yes.
Okay, and next we're on 514 with Dr. Belmont.
Hey, good evening. So, bullying prohibition policy 514, updating to the MSBA 2022 policy, and a lot of the alignment is minor. This is moved forward, but if you look at definitions like 3B, we did check in with our technology experts and Director Gordon to make sure that the cyberbullying definition met current trend language around technology. The rest, so there was an addition to policy review 9, so that is new content language. To the extent practicable, the school board shall, on a cycle consistent with other school district policies, review and revise this policy. The policy shall be made consistent with Minnesota statutes section 121A.031 and other applicable law. Revisions shall be made in consultation with students, parents, and community organizations, just prompting the board to be in somewhat of a cycle of continuous review around bullying.
That
The
good?
rest, just a couple minor updates to the references, going towards that model policy.
Okay. Questions? Comments? Okay. Director Said?
I thought I had a question, but I don't have a question, so I'm good.
Okay, awesome.
You got lucky. Karen.
Thank you.
Since it's bullying, I think we'll make it first reading,
Yeah.
and given the additional paragraph.
Okay.
And then I'll pass it off to Director Connor. Are you ready? Okay, awesome.
So we're starting at 516 then? Okay. You said that was good. The 514 was going to be a first read?
514 is first reading.
Okay.
Okay, so the next one. 516, student medication.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I am here to review the new updates for MSBA for the 516 policy for student medication. Very few things as far as the requirements, just some updated information there, lining out some, like setting up Minnesota statute, subdivision, all of that is taken care of. There was an addition, G, as you can see, as an addition, MSBA is for drugs and medicine used by children with disabilities. Administration may be provided on the IEP 504 section of the IHP, which is an individual health plan. So that was added. Stricken was the medication may be administered only by a licensed school nurse or designee. That's been stricken. And then the licensed school nurse is responsible for educating unlicensed personnel in accordance with the school procedures or policies. It could be an RN, it could be any there. We would make sure that when that's handed off. The other addition is on the next page, on page 3 or whatever. The addition of drugs has been added to that, to the medicine as well. And that was probably on the 3, 4, and 5. They've added that addition there. And I want to say just the updated legal references has also been added.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments, directors? Director Saeed?
Sorry, give me 1 minute here.
You said you saw one?
No, I don't have any.
A couple. Okay.
Yes.
Page 516-1 under Roman numeral 3 requirements. I think, so it was procedures for administration of school, of medicine at school. Shall be developed in consultation with a school nurse, a licensed school nurse, ... And I think I borrowed language from the previous policy suggesting that maybe we add, the school district administrations shall submit these procedures and any additional guidelines and procedures necessary to implement this policy to the school board for approval. I think this came from the previous policy. I don't have notes as to where, but it's, I'm pretty sure that was the thinking at the time. Upon approval by the school board, such guidelines and procedures shall be an addendum to this
And
policy.
that's under requirements there?
That's under requirements, Roman numeral 3I.
And so you want it, you're looking at changing what?
You want to take it out?
You want to remove that?
No, I think it was an addition. It's
Oh,
for-
that sentence you're saying should be in red?
Then it should be in there.
The licensed school nurse is responsible for educating the
No,
unlicensed.
the approval by the school board.
That,
Let me see here. Let me go down here.
let me see if I can figure out, okay. It's there.
Oh.
so-
School district.
Turn
What does
on your
say
mic.
necessary to implement the policy to the school board for approval?
Upon
That's
approval by the school board.
such guidelines and procedures shall be addendum to the policy.
So I don't know what I was thinking. The only other, never mind. One suggestion I had was auto-replacing parent with parent caregiver, or use the language in policy 520 that defines what a parent
Sure.
means. It doesn't matter to me which way the committee wants to go with that, but I think it's important to
Are you
define.
talking under special exceptions there?
Just throughout the whole policy.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
That says parent or legal guardian. And, doesn't it?
Where are you seeing that?
Well, parents and guardians.
Must make arrangements with the licensed school nurse for special health treatments?
And I guess the comment likely is there because it wasn't used consistently.
Okay.
So if we can be consistent with defining the parent
Parent and or parent.
and our
or
guardian.
legal guardian.
Legal.
Okay.
It's an I, but yeah, maybe it's not consistent through the whole.
Okay.
Just an auto replace, and that was
Or
it for
J,
me.
actually. Okay.
Good.
Okay. So this will be first reading?
Seven.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. All right, we will move right along. Why does my thing keep going back to the beginning every time? Okay, so now we are under, going to policy 520, student surveys.
Evening, directors. I have policy 520. The change you can find underneath the legal references. The legal references have been updated. Some have been stricken, and then the cross-reference has been updated with the appropriate name of the school board policy. Other changes in the policy are purely cosmetic and formatting. They have written out all of the abbreviations for Minnesota statutes and United States Code of Federal Regulations, and then we had one punctuation or capitalization change. So The policy itself only has formatting changes except for the legal reference and the cross-reference for the policy. Because we updated all the content in January.
So gender identity should be capitalized, but it's not a big deal. Okay. Any comments from our other directors, Director Alt or Director Sud?
Oh, thank you.
Is this one, since there's like one word change, can this one be consent? Okay. Okay, so this will be consent. Thank you, Amina. Thank you. Let me just write that down. And we'll move along then, if there's no other comments or questions.
Nope.
Consent. Okay,
And as an FYI, before you got here, we identified each policy based on whether it was consent or first reading.
Great.
So that you could just pick up when you arrived.
great, thank you.
Yep.
And thank you, sorry about the last
No
minute. I
problem.
apologize.
No, not a problem.
Okay, and so 5:20, and now, so that's it? I thought we had more.
What, can you,
Well, that's because I didn't.
516, what's the action? I missed that.
The
We
student
want to check for
medication.
parent guardian, but it's first reading.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So
Okay.
policy 514, first reading, 516, first reading, and 520, consent.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I guess that is it then.
Yep.
All right. Okay, so I guess we are dismissed. All right, at 5:25, is that right? Wow, 5:22. Thank you, everyone.